Welcome viewers, reviewers, and people who misclicked on the video. Today we will be going over the filmography of Video Brinquedo, which, if you didn't know, is a Brazilian animation studio that mostly makes films that rip off other animation films. Now, the studio has a lot of films, so we're going to break this into 3 parts. Today we are just going over the first 5 films that this animation studio has created. The Little Cars and the Great Race, which is a wonderful romantic comedy about a car who goes on a race and falls in love. Yeah, this movie isn't really that good. In fact, probably about 10% of the movie is just car puns. There are a lot of car-related puns in this movie, and most of the film is pretty problematic. Like, the main racer car, Cruz, is a delivery car, and the boss delivery car is like, well, there's these new bikes, they're gonna run us out of business. Like, what? That does not make any sense. First of all, cars are faster than bikes, so it wouldn't make any sense that they run out of business. Like, cars are sentient beings, but does that mean that bikes are also sentient? But we never see the bike, so are bikes slaves? Are they sentient? We don't know. This movie is extremely problematic. There's also a scene where this one race car drinks gas in its hood. I mean, what? That's not where gas goes. And also, the animation is really bad. The racing sequences are extremely poorly framed. They're not framed well at all. And overall, the movie, it has some unintentional comedy with the puns. Half of the movie is literally just dad jokes, car puns. The main character is named Cruz. Half of the movie is really just car puns. I will give the movie one thing. The movie actually does have one good scene, and the villain is cool. Seeing this diabolical plan come out is actually kind of interesting. And something the movie did was creative is that instead of autographs, it's like a tire print. Like, the car drags over a piece of paper, and that's the autograph. But it's also like DNA. Like, they use the DNA, which is the tire print, to catch the bad guy. And I actually thought that was a good scene. That was kind of clever. So I thought, would this movie be better if it was a straight-up police investigation movie? Yeah, this movie might have turned out pretty well if they did that. This terrible rip-off movie actually has one creative, genuinely good scene. So I'll give it that. But besides that, bad. You should not use any of your time doing this. Overall, the movie just has terrible animation. The race scenes are framed terribly. Some of the worst cinematography ever. So just don't watch this. This movie is straight up awful, and the very worst thing about it is the score. The score is absolutely terrible, and it just makes every scene impossible to watch because the music is just so bad. The racing sequences are even more poorly framed than the original. It just feels like this one was rushed even more than the original, and the original was rushed. They literally just retcon everything in the original. In the original, the town was called Raceopolis. In this one, it's called Roadopolis. Cruz is now Tony, and Lugnut is now Combo. They just got rid of every character and town name in the original and just changed it for this one. In fact, the only thing that I think this movie did better is that it toned down on those terrible car puns a little. There's not even that many car puns, but even that might be a negative, because the car puns at least had some ironic enjoyment in the original. This one is just straight up boring. Every character is a complete idiot. Combo doesn't even trust his own friend. He trusts some news sources besides his best friend, and he doesn't care. I guess this movie does have some good commentary on the news and fake news and whatnot, but I don't even think that was intentional, and it's just handled really poorly. And the voice acting is just terrible. In the original, Cruz was the only character who tried with voice acting. But in this movie, he just drops the ball completely and doesn't care at all. And also, this is unrelated, but on YouTube, in the description, it said, the opening titles are in Brazilian. Brazilian? You know that they speak Portuguese, right? Do you even know? I don't usually like complaining on movies, because I really like movies and whatnot. But this one just is terrible. It doesn't have any redeeming qualities. It's 1 star, and I don't recommend it to anyone. I love Ratatouille. I am obsessed with this movie. Honestly, you can get me talking about this thing for hours. I won't here, but for this purposes, just know that I'm just at the tip of the iceberg, because I really adore this movie. Everything about it is handled so perfectly to make me laugh. Marcel, in fact, is my Discord profile picture. But this movie does not love me back because it is awful. I mean, part of the reason I love this movie so much is because it's awful. But on my rewatch of it, I noticed that literally a quarter of this movie is just people talking about how good food is. That's it. And it's pretty boring. But once you get past that first quarter, the last 3 quarters are absolutely amazing in the worst way possible. It's basically a James Bond movie, but with really bad animation and really bad sound design. This movie has the absolute worst sound design of all time, but that's what makes it so fun. Cars 2 was boring, but this one is never boring, except for the first quarter. But besides the first quarter, this movie is never boring. It is terrible. There's only one scene outside of the first quarter that I don't get ironic enjoyment from, and that's when they're shaky cam. And since the animation is so bad, the shaky cam is just extremely nauseating and hard to watch. And the animation is pretty bad. The animation in general is pretty bad, but I feel like that's part of the movie's charm. Honestly, I mean, this movie is literally like 1 star because it's terrible, but I gotta give it 2 stars because I love it. Now, the next movie is Glottiformers. And Glottiformers may be my least favorite movie of all time. Not the worst movie, but just my least favorite. I mean, this movie might have the worst cinematography of any of these. When one of the cars/transformers is talking, they don't keep it stable. They don't even have mouths. They just move it around their bodies, so you don't even know what to concentrate on. This movie is also oddly religious for some reason. I don't know why. And this movie thinks it's so edgy, like Shakespearean drama, a lot of violence, but it's not a lot of violence at all. It's staged poorly, and the movie takes place in 2 rooms. There's just 2 rooms, and this movie is an hour long. Most Video Brinquedo movies are 45 minutes, but this one is over an hour, like an hour and 10 minutes, which is just really annoying, and it gets really old after this long runtime. And I had to watch it in literally 5 sittings because it's literally my least favorite movie that I've ever had the displeasure of watching. It's just so boring, and it's so tonally inconsistent because it's trying to think it's so edgy and so dramatic, but it's really not. And it's just overly complex, and since you can't see anyone's faces, I can't keep track of anyone. Like, there's one character named Magnum Tudor, and I still don't know if he's the good guy or the bad guy because this movie is terrible at world building and I don't understand any of it. It's incredibly boring to sit through and it's incredibly boring to talk about. So I'm gonna stop. Now we have our last movie of the day and the 3rd movie of this Cars ripoff trilogy. Cars 3, Fast and Curious. Now, the most thing of note of this movie is that it literally is the worst background character animation ever. Like, the fans and the race crowns are paper thin. They're rendered horribly. They're not even rendered at all, honestly. I wouldn't really call it a movie. It's more like 3 episodes of the Backyardigans stuck together. And although I used to be a super fan of the Backyardigans, I don't think that this was the best direction to go in this movie. The movie is just about preaching morals to babies, which I didn't really appreciate. One of the characters is like a drug dealer, and big reveal, he was the enemy racer from the last episode, and that was literally one of the worst twist villains ever. It's just really boring. It's 1 star. I don't have anything to say about it, except it's really boring, and you shouldn't watch it. Well, that's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Parts 2 and 3 will be coming out at some point. It might be a while because these movies are extremely hard to get through, but they'll come out sometime soon, so bye.